Okay, so there's this huge shift happening right now on the world stage, and it's all being bankrolled by oil money. We're going to dig into how Saudi Arabia is basically reinventing itself, moving away from just being an energy giant to becoming one of the most powerful global investors out there. Let's dive in.
So, the big question is, how does a country that's built its entire identity on oil change? I mean, how do you take all that wealth and use it to buy a totally different kind of influence on the world stage? That's what we're breaking down today, and trust me, it's a fascinating story about money, power, and what comes next.
Well, it all starts with this really big realization inside the kingdom. The age of oil, it's not going to last forever. The playbook that made them rich for decades, it's got an expiration date. And that single idea has kicked off this absolutely massive pivot. But to really get where they're going, you got to understand where they've been. For the better part of a century, Saudi Arabia's power on the world stage really came from just one thing. And the scale we're talking about here is just mind-blowing. I mean, this is one of the largest proven oil reserves on the entire planet. That kind of wealth gave them a major seat at the table in OPEC, the power to literally move global energy prices, and it brought in hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars. All that cash, that became the foundation for everything that's happening now. But here is the absolute key. The leadership in Saudi Arabia saw this huge threat coming over the horizon. The world is shifting toward renewable energy. Everyone's trying to diversify. Simply relying on oil just wasn't going to cut it in the long run.
And that realization, that led to something called Vision 2030. Now, this isn't just some boring policy paper. Think of it as a blueprint for a complete national reinvention. It is the kingdom's giant bet on a future without oil at its center.
And you can really see just how dramatic this change is. For decades, it was all about oil, oil, oil. Then, bam, 2016 hits and it's a hard turn. Vision 2030 gets launched, and that kicks off the era we're in right now. An era of super aggressive, super strategic investment all around the globe.
So how are they doing it? Well, the main tool is something called a sovereign wealth fund. To put it simply, it's a gigantic investment fund owned by the state. You can think of it as the country's own investment portfolio, using its massive capital to buy up assets all over the world.
The engine that's driving this entire transformation is the Public Investment Fund, or PIF. This is the financial juggernaut, the vehicle managing hundreds of billions of dollars, and they're aiming for over $2 trillion by 2030. It's their job to turn this grand vision into a reality.
Okay, so where is all this money actually going? The PIF's playbook is incredibly diverse, and it's targeting the exact sectors that are going to shape the future of the global economy.
Just take a look at this shopping list. We're not talking about oil and gas anymore. It's all about tech, electric vehicles, even huge investments in gaming and esports. They're buying into global infrastructure, major banks, strategically weaving themselves into the very fabric of the world economy. And this is the really crucial part, right? These aren't just random bets. It's not like they're just throwing money at a wall to see what sticks. No way. Every single investment is designed to do way more than just make money. It's about building economic partnerships, creating these webs of dependency, and in the end, securing real political leverage on the world stage. And this is where you can really see their priorities in action. Sure, technology is the biggest slice of the pie, but look at this. Sports, tourism, and entertainment, when you add them all up, make up almost half of the portfolio. That's a huge signal. This is a very deliberate strategy that goes far beyond traditional finance. Which brings us to the real heart of the strategy. This is all about translating that financial muscle into a different, maybe more subtle kind of influence on the world. The concept they're using is called soft power. It's not about military might or forcing people to do things. It's the ability to influence others through attraction, through culture, sports, entertainment. It's about making your country a place that the rest of the world actually wants to engage with. So why pour billions of dollars into sports? This quote right here just nails it. Sports create global visibility. They reshape public perception. It is a direct pipeline into the hearts and minds of millions and millions of people all over the globe. And you can see this happening in real time. They're hosting huge events like Formula One, signing the world's biggest soccer stars, and even building these wild futuristic cities like Neom. Every single one of these moves is like another brick in this massive project, rebranding the entire country from an oil state to a global hub for fun, innovation, and entertainment. So let's just break down the model here. Step one, it all starts with the oil money. That's the fuel for the whole thing. Step 2, that capital gets invested in key sectors all over the world. Step 3, this creates economic interdependence. Now other countries have a stake in Saudi Arabia's success, and vice versa. And the final step, that interdependence turns directly into more influence, more negotiating power, a bigger seat at the global table.
Now, we have to be clear about this. This incredibly ambitious strategy isn't happening without controversy. Not at all. The whole picture is really complex, and people see these moves in very, very different ways.
The debate really comes down to two totally different ways of looking at it. On one side, you have critics saying these huge investments, especially in things like sports, are just a form of reputation management, a way to distract everyone from the country's human rights issues. But then, on the other side, supporters argue that this is an absolutely necessary strategy for modernizing their economy and becoming a bigger part of the global community.
So, when you boil it all down, the transformation they're aiming for looks something like this. They're going from being an oil-dependent state to a capital-driven global investor, from having power based on what's in the ground to power based on what you own and who you're connected to, and from being just a regional energy player to a true global influence hub.
You know, at the end of the day, it really comes down to this simple but powerful idea. The money from oil built the foundation of the country we see today, but its capital, sent out strategically all over the world, that's building its future. And that leaves us with this big final question, doesn't it? Is this whole massive investment strategy actually reshaping Saudi Arabia's image for a new age? Or is it really just a clever, more modern way of extending their influence into every single corner of our world? That's the real question to think about as this whole new chapter of global power plays out.